Welcome everybody to Parapsychology Foundation Presents the PF International Affiliates Conference, second in the series of the online conferences, New Faces in Parapsychology. As you know, we started this morning at noon, and we're going to keep on keeping on until 7:30 p.m. Eastern with the discussion forum and the closing session. This morning we had a presentation by Anna Flores from the University of Edinburgh in Scotland, from Csongor Maci from Hungary, and now we have Gabriel Teixeira de Medeiros, I hope I didn't do too bad, who will be speaking to us soon. Let me go and get his, and this is the schedule. I was going to go to his biography. I'll do it in a minute. This is the schedule, and here we are at 5 p.m. and one session more at 7 p.m., which will be Liz Ecoli's closing remarks and a discussion session about the event as a whole. So let me go and read Gabriel's biography. Welcome, Igor. Now we have Russia in the house as well. We just went down the country list, Igor, that's why. So, welcome to Gabriel Teixeira de Medeiros from Brazil. His talk is going to be called Varieties of Out-of-Body Experiences, Comparing OBEers and Non-OBEers in a Brazilian Sample. Gabriel Medeiros received his master's in psychology from the Federal University of Sao Paulo in Brazil and is currently a PhD student at the University of Sao Paulo. I'm sorry about the typos here. As well as a member of INTERSEE, the Laboratory of Anomalistic Psychology and Psychosocial Processes at USP. He was recommended by the two PF international affiliates in Brazil, Professor Wellington Zangari and Dr. Fatima Regina Machado, who had nothing but wonderful things to say about him. And here is your PowerPoint, and I'm just going to shut off my mic and my video, and the floor is yours. Are you ready?
Yeah, I hope so. Okay,
there you go.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nancy. I would like to say hello for everybody that is here right now with us, and thank you for being here for this presentation. And I would like to thank you also, Carlos and Nancy, for this invitation. And before I begin the presentation, I would like to ask you to make some excuses because my English is not very good yet, so I can say sometimes something that is not exactly the good words to say, so I say sorry before it starts. And if someone doesn't understand something that I said, please use the chat and I will try to explain it better. I will present this a part of my master thesis that I called Varieties of Out-of-Body Experiences. This part of the thesis, comparing OBEers and non-OBEers in Brazilian sample. And for beginning this, we need to think, what is OBE? What is out-of-body experience? And as Blackmore has pointed, in 1982, it's an experience in which a person seems to perceive the world from a location outside his physical body. It seems to be very easy to understand what it is, but when we look at it a little closer, it's difficult to differentiate out-of-body experience from other experiences. Out-of-body experience may happen as you awaken or while you are sleeping, during illness, stress, or close to death, but also during meditation. It can be spontaneous or it can be induced voluntarily. And also it can be experimentally induced neurologically by hypnosis or by illusions, such as some studies have already tried to understand out-of-body experiences, inducing it neurologically, or more recently by hypnosis or by illusions, such as the study of Patricia's results using hypnosis to induce out-of-body experiences, or the Erson's study using illusion of a full body illusion to simulate an out-of-body experience. In order to understand what is out-of-body experience, we need to try to understand what is the difference between out-of-body experience and similar experience, but dream, lucid dream, and near-death experience. In a common dream, we also have sometimes the experience of thinking we are in another place that is not where we are in bodily. So sometimes, of course, when you are dreaming, you experience some kind of situations in which you are not exactly where your body is, because you're dreaming, you think you are awake and you are interacting with people, and when you wake up, you discover that it was just a dream and you were laid down in your bed. So in a way, you're not exactly in the same place where your body is. But it's not exactly the same thing as an out-of-body experience, because you don't see yourself, you don't feel yourself getting out of the body and understand that your body is in one place and your perception, your awareness is in another one. The same thing happens in lucid dream. Lucid dream is close to a common dream, but you have lucidity, you are aware that you are dreaming. And in an experience like that, you also can manipulate your dream. You are aware that you are dreaming, and sometimes you can decide what you do, because a lot of times we can't decide what we do in a dream, but in a lucid dream you can decide what you do, and sometimes you can manipulate other aspects, other elements of the dream that is not a major of yourself in the dream. And near-death experience are another experience that may or may not exist together with another out-of-body experience. So we can have out-of-body experience with near-death experience, but although an out-of-body experience may occur in people who are close to death, this does not mean that this type of out-of-body experience is necessarily near-death experience, because a near-death experience has additional facets about being close to death, and this is something in the experience for itself. You experience this closeness with the death, and in another experience it doesn't happen. So you can have a near-death experience and also an out-of-body experience during the same experience, but you also can have an out-of-body experience close to that, but it doesn't mean that you are having a near-death experience too. So when we try to compare out-of-body experience with dream, lucid dream, and near-death experience, we see that out-of-body experience is not so easy to understand as we think in the fourth definition by Blackmore. And because of that, there are a lot of deep misinterpretations of experiences as being out-of-body experiences. Because of that, Alvarado has pointed that it's important to focus on the exteriorization of perceptual locus. So you have to have this feeling of getting out of your body to really have an out-of-body experience, because when you dream, you seem to be out of your body when you think that you are laid down in your bed, and at the same time you are experiencing something that is not there. But it's not exactly the same thing as an out-of-body experience when you feel yourself getting out of the body and living this experience that is not exactly happening in the same place that where your body is. Sometimes it can be near to your body, but it's not exactly on your body. So Alvarado has pointed that it's important to focus on this exteriorization of perceptual locus to define what is out-of-body experiences. When we review the literature of the out-of-body experience, we see that there are a lot of quantitative studies and few qualitative data about out-of-body experience, especially in Brazil. We have almost anything about out-of-body experience being studied in Brazilian population. We have multiple models that have attempted to explain out-of-body experience, such as psychological models. The three more important models was proposed by Irwin, Palmer, and Blackmore, and they try to explain the out-of-body experience as being psychological experience that you create some model of the world, some imagery that Harvey and Irving, John Palmer and Susan Blackmore that proposed these psychological models and try to understand and try to explain this experience as being psychological creation that we do in different ways, each one of these, but try to understand it as a psychological experience. We also have some understanding about parapsychological understandings of out-of-body experience, but it doesn't configure itself as a model of out-of-body experience. There are a lot of studies trying to understand what kind of paranormal experience may happen on out-of-body experiences, such as extrasensory perceptions in out-of-body experiences, but it doesn't constitute itself as a model for itself. We have also neurological models, such as those proposed by Tenfield, Blanky, the Riders, Neff, Passinger, Lecoq. There are a lot of different neurological models, and these models can be pathological or not being pathological. There are some that is considered to be only in some pathological situations, and others that are proposed to be models that anyone could have an out-of-body experience. So when you see these different models trying to explain out-of-body experience, it seems that there's no consensus in out-of-body experience definitions. And it's both in science and in population, because when we talk about the population's understandings about out-of-body experience, there are a lot of different interpretations of these experiences, as we will see in this study, because it's more focused on phenomenologically approach about the out-of-body experiences. The majority of studies have also neglected contextual and social variables that are better understood through in-depth interviews, and can then try to understand what is happening while someone is experiencing an out-of-body experience, and what is happening when someone is attributing an experience to be an out-of-body experience, trying to understand the culture, the beliefs about this person that claims to have such experience, and trying to understand then the difference between cultures in a transcultural study. In 2013, Irene Dagnan and Drinkwater also pointed some difference between anomalous experiences and paranormal attributions. It was in an article called Parapsychological Experience as Anomalous Experience plus Paranormal Attribution, a questionnaire based on a new approach to measurement. It's important for out-of-body experience to see this difference between the anomalous experience and the paranormal attribution of these experiences, and we'll see in the rest of this study there are huge difference between both of those, and it may configure different kinds of experiences, much that are not alike one to another, just sometimes because of their normal experience, but sometimes just because the attribution of this experience, being paranormal or not paranormal. And another important thing about out-of-body experiences is the possibility of thinking about this phenomenon as a multiple subtypes of out-of-body experiences, including subject paranormal experiences, as proposed by Knapp in an article that he presented a multi-etiological approach that tries to integrate different models. And it's interesting to think about a subject paranormal experience because in this kind of subtype, we can have sometimes paranormal attribution, an out-of-body attribution for an experience that doesn't fit exactly this scientific definition of out-of-body experience. In special, that doesn't fit this exteriorization of perceptual focus. The objective of this study was to investigate and compare out-of-body experience and similar experiences, and to compare understandings, after effects, and meanings of those experiences. The out-of-body experiences and these similar experiences that are not considered to be an out-of-body experience. So some questions that we have in this study was, what's the difference between an out-of-body experience and other similar experiences? What is considered to be an out-of-body experience? Is it possible that the same experience can be considered out-of-body experience by someone and no out-of-body experience by someone else? So it's possible that the attribution of the experience can differentiate the same experience to be out-of-body experience and not to be out-of-body experience, varying the people that claim to have these experiences. And what's the role of beliefs and culture in out-of-body attributions? This is very important considering the Brazilian syncretism. We have a lot of religions here, and we have a lot of syncretism of these religions. And in this study, for instance, we have found people that claim to have as religion Catholicism, Spiritism, and Umbanism. That is a mediunist Brazilian religion. In these three religions at the same time as one religion, the belief of these people. So it's very interesting to see what's the role of the beliefs and culture in all the attributions, because this syncretism, this mixture of different beliefs in Brazil can make some peculiar experiences right in Brazil. The method used in this research was ball sample for assess these people. I think that it's not so easy to find people that claim to have out-of-body experience. So, and sometimes these people that have had an out-of-body experience try to understand this experience, and then in order to understand it, try to find someone else that has this same experience. Oh yeah, thank you, Nancy. As Nancy has said, it's more common to be called as snowball sample, because it seems to be a snowball. We start with someone that has claimed to have had an out-of-body experience, and ask for some suggestions of other possible participants that have had the same experience. So it's easier to find these people using this method, because once someone find someone else that had the same experience to try to understand, to better understand this experience they have had. They start to create a network that can facilitate us to access these experiences, these people. And together with the snowball sample, we use saturation criteria in order to define when it's okay, it's already good, the sample, and we can start to analyze it. Well, we have to compare actually this experience because the analysis is going on with the access and the interviews, but this saturation criteria was defined in the out-of-bar experiences. So the first group, we interview people from two groups, those that have claimed to have an out-of-bar experiences and those that have claimed to have never had any out-of-bar experience. So we start with the OBE group, the people that have claimed to have these experiences, and we use as saturation criteria the out-of-body experience for itself. So we try to find different kinds of out-of-body experiences considered to be out-of-body experience for those who experienced it. And when we start to have the same experiences, we finish this first group and start the second group, trying to use these types of experiences described in the first group as the criteria, the saturation criteria for the second group, trying to find some similar experiences that are similar to those subtypes of experience considered to be OBE in the first group. In the two groups, we use the KQRP, that are questionnaire of prevalence and relevance of psi experiences. It's a questionnaire created by Fatima Machado, and it has a social demographic questionnaire and a normal experience questionnaire, trying to investigate a lot of different experiences. And of course, it's more used in quantitative researchers, but we decided to use this to get the social demographic information and to also get an overview of other anomalous experiences by these participants. And we also had a qualitative in-depth interview for each one in both of groups. Question about life history, beliefs, and phenomenology of out-of-body experience, and a full detailed description of one out-of-body experience in the OB group, and the most similar experience lived by the second group, the participants of the second group, the non-OB group, and analysis with content analysis. The questions in the interview were 5 questions. The first one, the understanding of the mechanic body, soul, world, trying to understand how people see this relationship between their body, their soul, and we try to use this as anima, this Greek word that describes something that makes this body live. So someone could talk about a soul as a spirit, or talk about the mind. It doesn't matter for us, and we said it in the beginning of the interview. And the beliefs in extrasensorial perception, and in this we consider out-of-body experience as being extrasensorial perception. It's considered that people commonly attribute OB. There's a not in extrasensorial perception, but considering that a lot of people here in Brazil, at least, consider out-of-body experience to be an extrasensory perception, and even out-of-body experience doesn't out-of-body experience doesn't mean that there's an extrasensory perception, but there are a lot of people that consider it to be an extrasensory perception because consider that we get out of the body and with a spirit, with a soul, and can see the world and can understand the events they experience during this period out of the body as a real fact, a real experience, such as when they are in their body. So we try to understand what was the beliefs in ESP from the two groups, and considering and reporting, saying that for them, considering out-of-body experience as an extrasensory perception too, just for this question. And the third question was about the attitudes towards extrasensory perceptions, including, of course, out-of-body experience just for this study. The fourth question was an ask for a full description of an experience, out-of-body experience in the first group, or a similar experience in the second one, the most similar experience. And the last question was about the meanings, understanding, and natural effects in consequence of the experience described for both of the groups. As a theoretical framework, we use neuropositional knowledge that understands the events not exactly for the ontological issues, but as a phenomenological experience that is lived just by this person that has claimed to live the experience. So we didn't try to define what is or what is not an out-of-body experience for these people, but try to understand what people live as an experience, as an out-of-body experience, or what people live as similar but not out-of-body experience. So the definition, the out-of-body experience definitions that we choose for this study was a multiple phenomenon that can be only subjective in some cases, such as this subjective paranormal experience proposed by Nettie, and using this difference between a normal experience and paranormal attributions from the article of Irene, and that I have also I'm sorry, I think I have lost my connection. Everybody can hear me now? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Nancy. I don't know exactly where I was offline, so I will restart this slide. I was talking about the theoretical framework used in this study, and it was the neuropositional knowledge, trying to understand the experience not as an ontological experience, but as a lived experience. Try to understand what people lived, what they described as lived, and what they understand, what they understood as the experience, and not trying to define in an a priori way what is an out-of-body experience, what is the experience lived for someone that has these experiences. So the out-of-body experience definition for this study was used as a multiple phenomenon that can be only subjective in some cases, uh, such as those proposed by Knapp in the spontaneous, in the subjective paranormal experiences. Using the difference between anomalous experience and paranormal attribution proposed by Irving in the parapsychological experience as anomalous experience plus paranormal attribution. And the most important thing, considering the out-of-body experience by its subjective. So considering focusing on the work experience in this phenomenon, out-of-body experience, that is so something that is subjectively that someone has experienced as an out-of-body event, but not considering that it needs to be exactly an out-of-body experience, an out-of-body ontological event, but considering that if someone experienced something as an out-of-body experience, it already has some issues and some facets that may contribute to their lives, to some changes. So trying to not define exactly what is out-of-body experience, but understand what people describe as an out-of-body experience or similar but not out-of-body experience. The main results will be shown here, and I will divide it in some slides as it can be seen in this slide right now. The social demographic data, anomalous experience reported, both of them from the TPRP, from Fatima Machado, and the interviews divided in describing experience, the types of out-of-body experiences, understand the meaning of the experiences, followed by the description of experiences, the types of no out-of-body experiences and understand the meaning, and finally comparing out-of-body experiences and no out-of-body experiences. I'm sorry. The social demographic data is described in this table. We have 9 women and 4 men in OB group and 6 women and 7 men in non-OB group. The participants have average 20 to 30 years in both of the groups, or 20 to 40 years. And yes, Carlos, this questionnaire is the one used by Fatima in her doctoral work. We try to use this to have this social demographic data and an overview of other anomalous experiences, and allowing us to focus only on the out-of-body experiences in the interview, but having some other information about other anomalous experiences in their lives. And on average, almost every participant had at least almost every participant was at least were at least undergraduate. As you can see in the table, we had 7 undergraduates on the OB group and 5 in non-OB. Just 1 that had completed middle school only in non-OB group, and the other participants had at least graduated or post-graduations. The anomalous experience reported in the TPRP was mainly this exposed in this table. Note that the OB group had claimed to have much more anomalous experience than the other group, but the most interesting information in this questionnaire for us was the presence of 4 people in non-OB group that have described, that have assigned it as having an out-of-body experience in the questionnaire. The question was the same as Palmer stated, that is, I have had, is a statement, I have had an experience that I was located outside of or away from my physical body. That is, the feeling that my consciousness, mind, or center of awareness was placed in a different place than my physical body. If in doubt, please answer false. And it's interesting because all the 13 participants of the OB group have answered this question positively, but 4 out of the 13 participants on the non-OB group have also answered positively this question, but in the interview have said that this experience wasn't an out-of-body experience in the conception. So they have at least experienced being feeling out of their body, but doesn't understand it as an out-of-body experience, and we'll see in the interview why it's considered as this. The types of out-of-body experience, so we will start with this group of that have claimed to have had at least one out-of-body experience. This experience was divided, as you can see, as body sensations plus OB perspective, vivid dream, external validity, and lucid dream-like. The body sensation includes feelings of fluid and feeling vibrations, lightness, close to the ceiling, plus feeling spiritual entities. And it's interesting because this group has the vast majority of participants reporting some kind of spiritualistic and mediumistic religion, such as spiritism, umbandism, Umbanda is mediumistic Brazilian religion, and also projectology, that is not exactly considered a religion, but it's a group that is studied astral projections. It started with very close to spiritism, but now it's not exactly so close, but also believe in spirits, in life after death, and other lives. The second type was the body sensations plus OB perspective, and in this group we had sleep paralysis, autoscopy, feeling vibrations getting out of the body in this group. So we have this exteriorization of the perception locus, as Carlos Alvarado has pointed out as an important thing to define this experience. So this is the group. We have the more characteristic out-of-body experiences, and in this group we also have people that have had to see, hear, and relate to spiritual entities. 4 participants are in this subtype, in this type of out-of-body experience. 2 of them have related to spiritual entities, and the other 2 don't relate with any spiritual entities, and was more prone to interpret this out-of-body experience as psychological experience. One of them had fear, was afraid about these experiences, and was exactly the woman that had claimed to be part of Catholicism, Spiritism, and Umbanda, and the others that doesn't relate this experience with spiritual entities, consider this experience to be an hallucination and doesn't think this experience to be about some kind of spirit or soul getting out of the body, but just an interpretation and an hallucination that had happened. The third type was the vivid dream, that are people that have vivid dreams with presence of spiritual entities and meaningful experiences, and was reported by 3 participants. We also had the external validity type, that are experiences in which the out-of-body attribution was given by someone else. We had 2 participants reporting that. One of them has said that the experience she described to me was during the experience, and when she wake up the day after, and she thought it was just a dream. It doesn't seem to be not a bad experience, but in the day after, her dad has talked to her and said that he was having an out-of-body experience the night before, and during his out-of-body experience, he saw her daughter and described exactly the dream that she was having that night. So she decided it was an out-of-body experience and not a dream as she thought before. And it's interesting because these participants have reported that after that experience, because she thought it was just a dream, and after talking with her father, she thinks it was an out-of-body experience, and it started to wonder if some of the experience she sometimes think is a dream can be an out-of-body experience, but that wasn't understood in that moment because it didn't seem to be, but it was. So she started to wonder if more dreams was out-of-body experience. And the other participant in this group had reported an experience that had occurred 10 years earlier, the interview. It was a dream that she had, and in this dream she was feeling herself close to the ceiling, and she could see herself sitting down with her grandfather that has passed away during that a days before this, and she was saying goodbye to him in this experience. She felt herself in the ceiling, can see herself saying goodbye to her grandfather, and can also see herself laid down in the bed sleeping. In the moment this experience happened, she was an atheist and just think it was a way she could say goodbye psychologically and emotionally to her grandfather. But 10 years after, she became adept to Umbanda. She started to develop some mediumistic characteristics in Umbanda, and after became Umbandist, she considered this experience to be then an out-of-body experience. So it was 10 years from the experience to the out-of-body attribution. And it's interesting because this experience, even being considered an out-of-body experience, she doesn't really mind about this experience as being a proof that there are life after death or anything else, spiritual world, but it was much more important this relationship with her grandfather and it wasn't a relationship that going on. She never saw her grandfather again, but the experience became much more important because she understood after being Umbandist that this experience was for real. This experience uh, was really an experience in which she could say goodbye to her grandfather. And the last type, the lucid dream-like, was reported by two participants that considered out-of-body experience to be the presence of lucidity, the awareness in the experience. So they describe this experience as being more lucidity, more lucid than a lucid dream. One of them described the difference between dream, lucid dream, and out-of-body experience using this awareness involved in each experience. So from 0 to 40, 50% of lucidity in the experience, it was just a dream. From 50 to 78%, that is 80% of awareness, it was a lucid dream. And from 80 to 100% of awareness, it was an out-of-body experience. It's interesting because we can see that there are a lot of different types of out-of-body experience and a lot of different understandings about how we can attribute some experience to be an out-of-body experience. It's interesting too that this second group, the body sensations plus OBE perspective, one of these participants that doesn't relate this experience to be spiritual actually thinks this is just an hallucination, and she starts to have this experience. She reported she has the experience at least once a month, and she was very afraid when she starts to have these experiences, and try to find out what it could be on the internet. She was afraid to getting crazy or to have any psychological issue, and then she started to search about these experiences and have found that it was called in the science as an out-of-body experience, but she didn't think she was really getting out of her body, but just think that it's an experience that it seems to be out of the body, and for this it's called out-of-body experience, but it's not exactly out of the body. The understanding and meaning of these experiences is interesting because the relationship between ESP and out-of-body experiences in this first group, in the OB group, was majority concentrate in the understand of integrated ESP and OBE to the life. So they consider extrasensory perception and out-of-body experience to be integrated to the lives in other senses, in social life, they don't think it's anomalous, it's different from their lives. In 10 out of the 13 participants in this group, for 2 of them it was secondary. It's important for some questions in their lives, but it's not central in their lives. And this one that I have said was searching the internet what it is, this experience that she started to have. Don't believe in anything. She just thinks it's an hallucination that she has, and don't think there is a soul or a spirit that get out of the body and anything out of this. these uh, these people that believe it is an ESP and it integrates life, most of them have reported also a spiritual presence during the out-of-body experience. For two of them, it was crucial for the out-of-body experience attribution. For one other, not the two of these two, for one other, it was very helpful for getting out of the body, the spiritual presence. The spirit has helped her to get out. And it was highly related. These people who have reported spiritual presence related this experience with religion and morality, and believe in multiple bodies, such as energosoma, that is a name used in projectology to specify energetic body, a psychosoma as a psych body, and other bodies that we have in the same physical one. So for these people, when you have an out-of-body experience, some of these bodies get out of the physical body and can then relate with the physical world or with the spiritual world and the spiritual entities. These experiences, for those who have reported spiritual presences, have also helped to cope with adversities, such as three of them that reported suicidal ideation, unintended pregnancy, and cancer, and that reported that out-of-body experience have helped to cope with these three situations. And they also reported this whole group that reported spiritual presence and that reported integrated ESP and OB with life, have also reported changes in attitudes and values in life, its meanings and purposes in feeling oneself to be very small in the face of the immense of the world and being more patient and calm. Have also reported changes in material wealth, in attitudes toward material wealth and possessions, considering interactions with human beings more important than material wealth, and also reported these experiences as a confirmation of their beliefs in acts of physical life, reincarnation, existence of divinity. The other five participants that don't report these experiences as don't report spiritual presence in this out-of-body experience, have a more psychological interpretation of these experiences. They related these experiences with lucid dreams and lucidity experiences. They have more focus on the confirmation of the experiences, such as, for instance, one that reported when she gets out of the body, she decided to get some information from their home that she didn't know yet, and try to see if it's real when she gets back to the body. So try to see her sister's room and see if there's something different there that she wasn't aware of. And after the experience finished, try to confirm if it is really as she saw, to see if it's just an hallucination or if there's something else, there's some extrasensory perception in these experiences. And these people that have a psychological interpretation consider soul and mind to be the same thing. Don't think that this soul is a spirit, such these participants that have reported spiritual presence. One of these participants have also reported fear of out-of-body experience, that is this one who have reported to be Catholic, spiritism, and humanist, and have reported that this experience increased her thanatophobia. She was much more afraid of death death of it, she described this experience as being anxious and make her more afraid about death, and not just on the experience, but also in her daily life. So she described that she was much more afraid about death after these experiences. While she was in an elevator, and being afraid it can fall down, or while crossing a street and things like that. And in the types of similar experiences reported in the non-OB group, it's very interesting because three participants haven't reported any experience because they said they cannot remember any specific experience, even a common dream. And it's interesting because it seems to be a subgroup that doesn't think it's important, this kind of subjective experience. So they have had these experiences such as dreams. It's interesting in the moment it happened, and they thought about it for 5 to 15 minutes, but after that they just forgot this experience because it doesn't mean anything. The second type was religion-like experiences, and was three participants that associate out-of-body experience to religiosity and spirituality, describing experiences such as mediumistic trance and past life recalls. The third type in the non-OBE reports was vivid dreams, such as in the OBE group, describing sleep paralysis, autoscopy, lucid dreams, and hypersensitivity by 4 participants. And 3 participants, and it was the most interesting information in this study, describe experiences that is OB-like. They describe feeling of floating, getting out of the body, so there's present this externalization of the perceptual locus, and feeling having, as they have 2 bodies, a physical one and another one that is not exactly the same place. Change of point of view and in-body separation experiences. There are one participant that said he could feel in that moment during the experience 2 bodies, one physical body and something that is something like his mind or his soul that was inside the body, but that he could differentiate one from the other. And it's interesting because in this experience, the understanding of the similar experience was very different from the OB group. The dualism body-soul was found just in 3 participants of this group out of 13 participants. 5 of these participants reported soul, their concept of soul as varying from spirit to mind. So sometimes they thought it was like a spirit, but sometimes like a mind, and it was more, in general, more considered as mind when you are alive, and just as a spirit when you're dead. So they believe that we have a spirit, but it just can get out of the body when you are dead, not when you are alive. When you're alive, you just have the mind. And 5 participants describe soul as a mind, considering that it doesn't have anything else from the body. It's just the body and the perceptions and the interpretations we create with this body, and not the not a composition with other bodies as present in the first group, in the out-of-body experience group. The extrasensory perception and the out-of-body experience was related with mediumship by 4 people. 3 of them was the 3 that related out-of-body experience with spiritual and religious experiences, and another one that was the other spiritists in this group. It's interesting because the religion of this group was much more Catholics and atheists or agnostics, and just 4 spiritists. Extrasensory perception was related with common but subtle perceptions by 6 participants that think it's not a paranormal thing, but think that it's such a physical perception, but very subtle, and that we have to practice in order to have these perceptions. And 3 of them don't believe in extrasensory perception, but believe in telepathy. This that believe in telepathy believe that the minds can communicate to each other, but in such a way that is much more closer to this that believe ESP as a common but subtle perception. They believe that we can have communication with minds, but when we are very close to other people and we know these people very well, so we can understand what they are thinking about. And comparing the 2 groups, the OB and the non-OB, it's very interesting because it's, at least for me, I believe in the beginning of the study that it would be very different, the experience described as out-of-body experience and those described as non-out-of-body experience. But it was very similar in many of these reports. So we have 3 OBE participants that describe a vivid dream and 2 non-OBE participants that describe a vivid dream. The difference was between the OBE attribution in one group and non-OBE attribution in the other. Lucid dreams, we have 2 participants in both of groups. Interaction with deceased family member, we have also 1 participant in each group, and it was very interesting because it was almost exactly the same experience. I have already described this experience in the OB group, but in the non-OB group, there was a woman that described an experience. She thought it was a dream, and in this dream, she found her grandmother that had died 3 days earlier. And it was a very important moment to say goodbye to her granddaughter. Sorry, to her grandmother. And when she wake up, she was very excited and a little afraid about that experience. And for a moment, she told me that for a moment she thought it was for real. She was with her grandmother. But after 5 minutes, she decided to break deep and take a glass of water and just consider this to be a dream. Say, no, it's just a dream, it doesn't happen anything else, and get back to sleep. So it's very interesting because the experiences are so close, these 2, and the interpretation of the experience was so close in the moment, but 10 years after, the one in the OB group started in Umbanda and he interprets this experience as being an out-of-body experience. Body sensations such as energy, lightness, and feeling of floating was found in 2 participants in OB group and he in non-OB group, and also it was found in 6 OB participants and 1 non-OB participant. it's interesting because these attributions of out-of-body experiences or non-out-of-body experience is what's very important in this sample for the after effects of these experiences. These that have reported the out-of-body experience have a meaningful experience that has a very central role in their lives and is important to cope with adversities. It's also important to confirm the beliefs and so on. And in those that don't believe this experience as being an out-of-body experience, it doesn't matter. This experience is just something that happened and it's curious, but it's not important in their life. So they just think they had no uncommon experience, but that doesn't mean anything in their lives. And it's very interesting because the OB group seems to be likely all the sample that has also reported people having very positive after effects with out-of-body experiences. In all this sample in United States, there were 88% of participants claim to have positive after effects with the out-of-body experience. In this group, we have a lot of people that consider this experience to be positive. Not only this, that believe in a spiritual explanation for these experiences and have encountered spiritual entities, but also in these psychological experiences, such as this one that believe the experience is out of experience just after 10 years of the experience, but consider it much more to be an emotional experience. Even this experience was very meaningful to her and was has very positively after effects for their life. In other sample, just 11% have neutral experiences that doesn't have good after effects. And in this OB group, in my study, it was just 2 people that have said it doesn't matter. This experience, it was interesting, but it doesn't matter. And in other sample, there was 1% of the sample that have reported bad after effects about the experiences. And in our study, we found 1 people, that is this one that increased the thanatophobia, this fear of the death, after the out-of-body experience. So this OB group seems to be very likely to hold the sample. But in the other hand, the non-OB group seems to be likely Blackmore sample. That was a sample in England that only 10% of the participants claim to have change in their lives, a positive change in their lives, and the other participants doesn't have any change because they don't think they believe that they reported the experience as being an out-of-body experience, but they related the experience with imagery and psychological experience and not a meaningful and spiritual experience, such as my study in the OB group. So the non-OB group that doesn't believe this experience is an out-of-body experience, they have reported a lot of experience that they believe is very similar to an out-of-body experience, but it's not exactly the same thing, but it's not so vividly, so real as they believe it has to be an out-of-body experience. So it's much more related to imagery, to hallucination, to other components than spiritual or ontological out-of-body experience. And then they doesn't have any after effect in the Blackmore sample, but also in the non-OB group in my study. So this makes us think about some questions about the experiences and the attributions to these experiences. Does the out-of-body attribution contribute in their after effects? Because at least in this sample, of course it's a little sample, just 26 people, but we can see that 13 people have, or at least 11 of them have a very good experience with these out-of-body experiences, and these other people that described experience so close, sometimes even much more close to the out-of-body experience definition than in the OBE group. Just because they don't attribute it to be an out-of-body experience, they don't have any after effects, and it's not a meaningful experience. So one of the questions is, what's the role of this OB attribution in the after effects of this experience? And what's the difference between types of out-of-body experiences? For instance, is there any difference between an experience that is not that doesn't fit the scientific definition of out-of-body experiences, and those that fit when we focus on the after effects or the meanings of this experience? Is there any difference between this experience that is much more lucid dream-like experience, but is considered an out-of-body experience, and this that fit the out-of-body experience definitions in the after effects? Or what's the difference between the experience that it fits the experience, the out-of-body experience definitions, but is not considered to be one out-of-body experience, and that experience that doesn't fit the out-of-body experience, but is considered to be? Because this experience that is considered to be an out-of-body experience has much more meaning and after effects, and it's much more important for these people than this experience that can be more characteristic of an out-of-body experience, but is not considered as so. So is the ontological definition of OB more typical OB than the OB attribution in similar experiences? It doesn't, I don't want to say that it doesn't matter, this definitions, scientific definitions of out-of-body experience, because I think it's very, very important to define these experiences. But in some studies, when we are trying to understand what is the experience lived by people, it seems to be more important this understanding and this attribution given by the experimenters, because it's thinking that this experience is a psychological experience, we have a more important or more meaningful experience, psychological experience, from those who attribute it to be an out-of-body experience than from those who doesn't attribute it to be an out-of-body experience, even when they fit these experiences fit much more this out-of-body experiences definition. So what are the roles of attributions and meanings of the out-of-body experiences? Very important, not for all the studies with out-of-body experience. Of course, it's very, very important to have these scientific definitions, but for some studies, it's more important to understand these attributions and these meanings than the definitions. So my point is that the out-of-body experience is a sui generis experience constituted from the relationship of the real experience and then the importance of this scientific definition, but also from the understandings, the attributions, and the meanings of these experiences. So I think future researchers would have to consider the development of specific measures for OBE or out-of-body experiences types, trying to compare out-of-body experience among the same types of experiences, but also comparing different types of out-of-body experiences, trying to understand then what the importance of the characteristics and the elements present in the out-of-body experience, but also what the importance of the understanding attributions in these experiences. And out-of-body experience seems to be then a spectrum of experiences from ontological, and then this scientific definition to phenomenological experiences that doesn't matter if in this phenomenological experience doesn't matter if it fits the definitions or not, because we are then focused on psychological experiences, and this attribution is much more important in the psychological experience and the after effects and attribution and meanings. So the importance of having a definition is very important, but also of investigating any experience considered out of our experience, but its experiences. Consider then that we have much more experiences called out of our experience than just the definition or just the attributions, but a spectrum that consider the attribution, that consider the definitions, and that try to see the difference and similarities between them, not just one group or other, but the different compositions that can be had, that can be made with these different elements of the out-of-body experiences. And for finish my presentation, I would like to present some limitations of this study. Of course, this snowball sample may result in a more homogeneous sample because it's easier to find these out-of-body experiences, but it's also easier to find experiences that are more similar one to another in this way. So it would be very interesting to try to redo this study with more people and with different methods of access of people. Another important issue in limitation in this study is the small sample. 26 people is very few, a very small sample for understanding this experience. So it's not this doesn't aim to try to really understand what out-of-body experience is, but try to shed some light in this discussion about the definition of our experience and the attributions, and try to understand a little bit more about the experience. But of course, we need to conduct more studies, more research with this approach to try to understand what we can really understand as out-of-body experience, at least here in Brazil. And these experience reports happen in different times, some with more than 10 years. So it's also a very important limitation of this study, because these reports may be distorted from the original experience, because of this lack of time between the experience and the reports. So another important thing to think to other studies, to future studies, is to try to figure out a way to access people that have had out-of-body experience recently, in order to reduce the distortions in the reports. I think it is. I would like to thank you so much for your attention in this presentation, and would like to apologize once again, because I'm not so it's not so easy for me to speak in English yet, and I don't know if it can be if I can make myself understood. I can be understood right now, but I would be very glad to answer any question that you have here right now. But if you have any other question, you can write for me or Wellington, my advisor, and we will be very glad to talk and to answer some questions. And I also would like to thank you, Papesky, for the financial support in this study. And once again, thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Gabriel. It was very, very good. Don't you worry about your English at all. It was
Oh,
wonderful.
thank you so much, Nancy.
You're welcome. It was also a very interesting presentation. I loved that you looked at attribution and the importance that attribution has in terms of after effects and the meaningfulness and how the OBE experience is integrated into life or just forgotten about because there's no meaning attached to it. I think that's a very important aspect for current and future research. And I was also thinking, while you were speaking, one of the members of the group here was saying, oh, well, has he found anyone who has gotten OBEs because of trauma or shock or brain injury or some other Kundalini awakening and so on? And it made me think that you might be able to go to neurologists, for instance, a physician who specializes in neurology, and ask about patients who have reported OBEs after a brain injury of some sort, or go to spiritual teachers who focus on yogic practices or Kundalini. Have you had people who reported? So if you use a snowball, but you start with someone who's focusing on different types of people who might have had an experience, then you may bring a group of people that you have that have had a start to their OBE or a natural push to having an OBE, but it's a different kind of a category than we normally think of. So that was one point, and there was another one that I think I just lost it. It went out of my head, I'm sorry. But those two things came to mind. And did anybody among the people you talked to mention any kind of injury as being the way that they had their first OBE or their only OBE?
Yeah, thank you, Nancy. I think it would be very interesting to try to approach other types of experiences, such as these trauma experiences and spiritual teachers. Unfortunately, I didn't find any one of those in my study. Right now, I'm doing my postdoc of my doctoral degree and my doctoral research, and I will bear it in mind to try to find out right in this study. But in this that I have presented today, it wasn't anyone with a trauma or related with Kundalini. So it's another limitation from this snowball sample that is so much homogeneous.
What I was thinking that came back to me too was actually when I started at Edinburgh, I was thinking of working on attribution theory and ended going in a different direction. But one thing we talked about, Professor Morris and I, when I was thinking about that briefly, was you could do a survey or a call for cases to a skeptical group by giving a talk that was provided a very conventional explanation, was very much, we didn't use the term anomalistic psychology then, but was from that perspective, and congratulated them ahead of time for having all these extraordinary experiences and just, well, they're nothing, they're a hallucination or something, and then ask for, have you ever had this, or this? Because it would create, it creates a bit of a bias. There's some push, there's some social pressure to give a non-spiritual version of an experience, but you would also maybe get experiences from people who don't have those religious, spiritual or intellectual contexts to call an OBE an OBE. You might get more examples of experiences that are similar but haven't been given that attribution if you make a safe environment for them to report those.
Yeah,
so that's just
it's very close to my idea in this doctoral study. I'm trying to construct a questionnaire trying to understand the experience, but not call it as an out-of-body experience. I will call just in the end to see what's the attribution, but dividing in each element, presenting some kind, at least one kind of out-of-body experiences, and ask if they had this element once in their life, in any experience, and after that, just as if they have had an out-of-body experience.
I think that's the way that you worded the question for this project was really good because it focused on the phenomenology of the experience without categorizing it as this, as an OBE or not an OBE or something abnormal, something normal. It was just, have you ever had something like this? And I think a lot of questionnaires, and we've done some like that too, that just say, usually we do a phenomenological question, Carlos and I, but some questions will say, have you ever had an out-of-body experience? And they just, that's it. They give you a context that's loaded with cultural meaning and religious meaning and all that, and then you have to respond to that rather than doing what you did, which is give a phenomenological description of what you're looking for, but don't try to, keep it uncategorized, keep it neutral as a question. I think that's the best way to get those kinds of experiences. So I thought that was very good. Does anybody have any other questions? Marla's also suggesting OBEs that occur in yoga practices and under brain stimulation. So that's another reason to maybe talk to some neurologists or yoga teachers and see how you can use it. Carlos is wondering, how far are you from finishing your PhD?
I just finished my first year in the PhD degree, so I had up to September 2019. So, and Carlos, I will ask you a lot of things. Soon I will start to ask a lot of things that I will need, and I think you will be of a lot of importance in this questionnaire. So if you,
so he's very happy now. So you had no worries about giving a talk about OBE.
Oh, I am very glad then. Very, very happy to know that, because I'm counting on that, because Alvarado has a lot of, for instance, when I sent to my father my master thesis, he believed that Alvarado was a compendium of out-of-body experiences, because he don't know anyone in our research field. So, and I cited Alvarado a lot of times, and so he thought, oh, it's just a dictionary, a compendium of out-of-body experience. It's something like that, but in a physical body.
You're famous, Carlos. Well, he says he would be very happy to read your work if you've seen what he wrote in the chat. And he means it.
Thank you so much, Carlos.
Yeah. One of his great pleasures. Yeah. And if Alvarado tweeted, he would tweet a lot about Alvarado as well. Well, any more questions, guys? Any more questions? Well, thank you very much. This has been an excellent talk and a wonderful end to the substantive part of the day. We've had 3 really great presentations. I hope you can stay for the discussion forum. We'll start that in about a half an hour. It will be brief because of the lateness of the hour, even on this side of the Atlantic Ocean. It's not so early in the day. But really, thank you a lot. It's been a great presentation. Your English was very good, and this is a very interesting study. And we wish you well with the doctoral dissertation. And remember, we all know Professor Zangari and Professora Machado from when they weren't PhDs. So we can help you if you need.
Oh, thank you very much, Nancy.
And thank you guys for also being here, everybody who's been hanging with us all day long, and I hope you'll rejoin us at 7 p.m. for the closing remarks from Lizette Coley and a little bit of time for discussion forum and some reminders about some of the things that Parapsychology Foundation is doing at the moment to get the word out. So thank you very much, and we will see you soon. And you should watch your recording, and Gabriel, because you'll feel pretty good about it.
I will. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye, guys. See you at 7 p.m. in a half an hour.
Hi there, I'm Lizette Coley. I'm president of Parapsychology Foundation. So welcome to our YouTube channel. We have lots to look at, so please check out our videos. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.